Okay, so now that you have all your materials ready, let's get up into a little warm-up exercise in order to get you into the right movements and the right motions before we start this class project. For this section, I'll be using my pencil and my paper. Let's just get straight into it. The main purpose of doing this warm-up exercise is to get you confident and get you in the motion of creating nice, confident and clean lines. As well as your drawing, we don't have little lines all put together, as it'll make the drawing look quite rough and sketchy. Also, another purpose of warming up is just to kind of strengthen that mind and hand connection, as what you're thinking and what you're drawing, you want them both to be in sync. Okay, so in the resources, you'll find these two pages. I've printed them out. But you can see for this lesson, it's labelled warm up. We've got one for lines and we've got one for ovals. So what we're going to be doing in this lesson is we're going to be drawing straight lines and ovals. The reason for this is because most shapes are made up of curves and straight lines. So getting used to drawing these confidently and smoothly is very important. So let's get to it. So firstly, we're going to start off with the straight lines. So I'm going to move that to the side. And with the paper, so I'm going to tear a piece of paper out from my sketch pad. I'm going to move this off to the side. So what I'm going to be doing is showing you how you can use the guides initially, and then I'm going to continue without the guides. So first, we're going to start off with the straight lines. So what I've done here, I've just got my sketch paper and I'm putting it on top of the guides. So I'm just going to be holding this tight because it can slip. So with my pencil, I'm going to just be drawing a straight line. What I want you to do is, instead of using your wrist like this, I want you to use your whole arm to get a straight line. The best way to draw a straight line is to always draw away from you. Not up, not down, definitely not the other way, so never in towards you. It's always out from your body, away from you. So if you're left-handed, you turn your paper this way, and then you draw outwards. The reason for this is it just allows for a much more freer movement compared to the restriction of your wrist. So the aim of this is I want you to get to a stage where you're drawing nice, confident straight lines. So one thing, as you can see, I'm not keeping my piece of paper straight, I'm turning it to match my arc. Because if I'm this way and I'm trying to draw it, I'm drawing across my body. Whereas this way, I want you to draw away from your body. So I'm going to keep the piece of paper there, and I want you to just draw nice, straight lines. Try to match the guide if you can. If you find yourself, like say, missing it like that, for example, either realign your paper, or instead of, like say, the lines here and here, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the end of the line. So every time I'm drawing, I'm looking at the end of the line. And can you see it getting a bit wobbly? What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the paper away from me, and there, draw again. And whilst you're doing this, try to make sure you're hitting the edges. Try not to go over too much or try not to go under. Again, this is all part of creating nice, confident, clean lines. And each one isn't going to be perfect. This is the whole purpose of this. And see here, for example, we're going to draw a line down. So we can do a slow one, but you can see how wobbly that is compared to, say, for example, if we turn the piece of paper and then draw it, we get a nice, clean, straight lines. And you can see I'm doing it quite quick at the moment, because if, like, say, for example, you go slow, you do end up getting a much more jaggedy line. So what we're going to be doing is just nice, clean, straight lines. And take as many pieces of paper as you want for this. I'm going to get another piece of paper and I'll show you. Again, just getting a fresh piece of paper, and again, just drawing away from me. I'm not pressing too hard. This is just a matter of getting consistent, clean lines. So as soon as you find that you're getting to a stage where you get a nice, clean, confident lines, where it's not too jaggedy and you are matching the line quite well, then I'd say it's time for you to move on to the ovals. Take as much time as you want with this. You're going to pause the video, and then just with a few more sheets, just draw as many straight lines as you can. So as you can see here, look, I've just drawn a bunch of straight lines. Do take as much time as you need in order to create the nice, confident lines. You want to get to a stage where you are most of the lines are quite consistent in the way that you're drawing them. If you're having lines like this, then I'd say yes, take some more time and practice just drawing these straight lines. Again, I've printed these off, and if you are using the iPad, you can just take a picture of this and then put it on a new layer in Procreate, and then you can use that as a way of drawing too. So what I want you to do is this. As you can see on the resources sheet, there's a bunch of ovals which are different heights, We've got some narrow ones, we've got some medium ones, we've got some bigger ones, and then as you can see here, there's a graduation from the narrow ones to the wider ones. Put it below your piece of paper, and then I just want you to go in and fill this in. So one thing you'll see, so you see here, this is something that will occur. So what we're trying to aim for here is to get to a point where these lines match up and the ovals are nice and smooth. And like I said, I'm not drawing, like this is me drawing with my wrist. We don't want the wrist. We don't want the wrist, we want a nice, so right now I'm using my full arm. So I'm just gonna go in, I'm gonna fill this sheet in. You do the same, like I said, if you do want to pause it, take your time. And again, it's always nice to do the natural arc. Like say for example the oval's this way, and you're trying to draw it slow. You're gonna get these jaggedy edges. You wanna get a nice controlled oval. So this is my first sheet. As you can see, it's not the best, but again, I've not warmed up. Okay, now onto the second paper. I'm gonna do the exact same. Okay, let's try that one more time. So we do want to make sure we get nice confident ovals where they're meeting up at the end. So like say here, that's not a good one. But like say if you're getting ones like this is really good. And one thing I do like to do, if you hover your pencil over it whilst imitating the oval and then doing it, you're more likely to get a more confident shape. Ovals are much harder compared to the straight lines because it's requiring you to be accurate in more than just one axis. And if you do now just want to go in on a piece of paper without your guides, so without using your warm-up for the lines and the ovals, if you just pop them to the side, and now what we're going to do is just draw the straight lines and the ovals without the guides, just to kind of get used to it, because when we're going to be drawing, these guides aren't going to be there for us, so it's good to kind of just get used to drawing these. So what we'll do a half of straight lines, split this up, so we're going to do half straight lines and then we'll do half ovals. So again, I'm turning that piece of paper to match the arc of my arm. None of this across, none of this towards myself. Always pushing away, and turning the paper every time. So you get into a state where you're drawing pretty much consistently straight lines, which is good. Now for the other side, we're going to do a bunch of ovals. As you can see here, I'm slowly getting more and more ovals that are all matching up. Like there's a consistent amount of. And if you do want to hover and then commit, so hover above it and then commit. Like I said, the purpose of this is just to get ourselves warmed up in order to create nice, confident, clean lines. Like I've heard to use 5 pieces of paper in order to practice the straight lines based on the guides, and then I've got another sheet for the ovals, and then I've gone on another one for my ovals, and then I've gone on and then just tried a sheet of my own. This is all part of the process. It's important you do warm up, so don't skip this step. I'd say the best time to move on is once you are getting the nice confident straight lines and when the ovals are matching up at the end. So this I'd say is okay, but if you're getting stuff like this where there's much bigger gap, I'd say yeah, then you need to take some time just to continue practicing a little bit more. Okay, so a pro tip that I like to use is whilst you're drawing, especially the straight lines, is to use your whole arm. As you can see here, I'm not just using my wrist in order to sketch these lines, I'm using my whole arm. As if you think about it, if you move your arms outwards, it's a natural arc. So if you're right-handed, your arm will go away from you, and if you're left-handed, it'll go in the opposite direction. But the main reason of using this to create straight lines is it gives you a lot more movement as opposed to just the tiny rotation that your wrist provides. It's just really beneficial when you want to create smooth lines or even just whole shapes. So with this warm-up, do spend as much time as you want in order to get straight lines and ovals. One way that I like to know when I'm ready or when to move on is when my lines are pretty much straight and the ovals do match up at the end, because whilst you're drawing it, sometimes they don't match up at the end or where you started the oval. What we're aiming for with this warm-up is just consistency in the lines that you're creating. Okay, so in the next lesson, I'll be covering 2D shapes. This may seem a little basic at the moment, but I'm building you up slowly in order to get to the more harder stuff, as these 2D shapes do form most things out there, so when you're drawing, it's important to be able to draw these properly. I'll see you there.